starting with the scene at 6, here on Channel 4.
Tonight, Central American peace talks end produce no results. Actor Raymond Massey, star of movies and television, dead at 86. And in Saratoga Springs, New York, a first-time look at the inside world of the social racing set. Good evening, I'm Jessica Savitch, and this is NBC Nightly News. The so-called Contadora group of Latin American countries failed today to persuade Central American leaders to accept a peace plan for that area. The meeting, which ended today in Panama City, included 9 foreign ministers. Well, after 2 days of talks, they failed to reach accord on the threat of war in the region. Correspondent Richard Valeriani reports now from Panama City.
The 9 foreign ministers did manage to agree totally on something: the laying of a wreath at the tomb of former Panamanian President Omar Torrijos. But there was considerably less harmony during their 2 days of private meetings on how to achieve peace in Central America. The meeting broke up in a rather disorganized way, with several foreign ministers holding sidewalk news conferences.
That each country emphasizes the points that are more of their particular interest, and that, of course, has to be assembled in the whole picture. But you say it's a negotiation.
The end of meeting statement spoke of a constructive atmosphere, but it noted that Nicaragua took one position on the issues involved, while the other 4 Central American countries took another position. The ministers agreed to meet again here in Panama next month, probably on the 16th. The lack of real progress was not surprising. A high official involved in the negotiations told NBC News that the foreign ministers are essentially just going through the motions, with little hope of accomplishing anything of substance. The official said that Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador are not really interested in negotiating their differences, and he said United States support for the negotiations was merely lip service. He said the feeling among the non-Central American participants in the talks is that the Reagan administration's real goal is to wipe out the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. Therefore, the official said, unless there's some dramatic progress elsewhere on the diplomatic front, it's likely there will be a significant increase in the fighting in Central America by the end of this year. Richard Valeriani, NBC News, in Panama.
The U.S. is mounting the biggest war games ever staged in Central America, despite charges that its intentions are more than just demonstrating U.S. resolve for peace in the region. An aircraft carrier battle group is already in the area, and 2 groups led by a carrier and a battleship are due later this year. Defense Department correspondent Jack Reynolds describes the scope of the carrier battle group.
This was called a task force. Now the Navy has opted for a more impressive title, Carrier Battle Group. The U.S. Navy now has 13 of these carrier battle groups and wants to increase that number to 15. When most people think about an aircraft carrier, they have a picture of the huge ship, its planes, and perhaps a few destroyers circling to protect it from enemy submarines. Well, a carrier battle group is a lot more than that. The centerpiece is still the carrier, costing well over $2 billion, towering 17 stories high. Its planes at current prices cost about $2.7 billion. It's like a self-contained city. From a television station to the nuclear power plant that can keep it going for 13 years without refueling. It has its own police force, fire department, dentists and doctors. The kitchens serve 18,000 meals a day. When the crew's ready for shore leave, there's a bank that can handle $250,000 in withdrawals. The purpose of all this is to enable the battle group to move long distances, to project U.S. power abroad. The carrier battle group works a large area. For example, if it was imposed on a map of the U.S. with the carrier in Chicago, the cruiser would range from Madison, Wisconsin to Indianapolis, Indiana. The fighter planes would be over Memphis, Sioux Falls, and Buffalo. Long-range patrol planes would fly over northern Canada, the Atlantic, and the Gulf of Mexico.
The group itself, with all of its ships, represents the finest technology that our country has been able to put together. It represents immense power.
Ever since Billy Mitchell proved that you could sink a warship with bombs dropped from a plane, the carrier has been a factor in naval strategy. Future budgets may limit their number, but no serious strategist would scrap the carriers. Jack Reynolds, NBC News.
While Contadora leaders have been frustrated in their attempts to bring peace to Central America, President Reagan and Cuba's Fidel Castro have been talking peace. But Fred Francis reports from the State Department now that there may be more posturing than substance in an exchange of words between the 2 leaders.
The conditions in Central America are ripe for war and not easily negotiated. That, according to a knowledgeable administration official who dismissed as posturing yesterday's pledge by Fidel Castro, as well as President Reagan's response. Castro said he'd halt arms and advisors to Nicaragua if other nations pulled out of the region. Publicly, the president responded favorably, saying he'd give Castro the benefit of the doubt in the negotiations. But the administration source said it's all rhetoric. No such agreement is possible. Castro, who has 2,000 advisors in Nicaragua, doesn't have the authority to speak for the 100 Soviets there, the 50 or so East Germans, and the others from Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, Libya, and the PLO. And the source said it's equally unlikely that the Reagan administration would end its aid and advisors to El Salvador and Honduras. The source said this president is not going to hand El Salvador to the communist guerrillas or leave Honduras vulnerable. And he certainly wouldn't abandon the CIA-supported insurgents fighting inside Nicaragua. The source, who is privy to inside administration planning, said he is extremely pessimistic about the future role for United States combat troops in the region. He said 6 months ago he thought a role such as that was inconceivable. Today, he says a combat role is just improbable, but not inconceivable. Fred Francis, NBC News, the State Department.
And a Reagan administration official said today the U.S. knew all along that the elections in El Salvador would be postponed until next year, and that the delay announced yesterday was due to, quote, technical problems in El Salvador. Two greats in the world of acting died today. That and more news after this.
Denture wearers, here's Martha Ray with a special message.
Folks, I work with lots of people who wear dentures and smoke. And I tell them all, try Super Strength Smoker's Polident. It's just for smokers. Watch. We'll take half this denture stained with tobacco. Ugly. Now Smoker's Polident. It's the only super strength denture cleanser made to get tobacco stains super clean. See? So take it from a big mouth. Smoker's Polident gets tough tobacco stains super clean. Check.
When a heated situation is getting the best of you, take it from Dave Lennox. He'll show you how upgrading to a Lennox heat pump can cool things down in a hurry. And later, warm things up as well. Lennox can heat and cool your home with a 2-speed heat pump that runs slower during mild weather, cutting cooling costs by up to 39%. And that's going to keep you comfortable for a long time.
Attaboy, Dave.
Call your independent Lennox dealer. He's in the Yellow Pages.
Lesson number 1. Whatever happens, be protected. Exercise. Eat the right foods. Rest. And help protect yourself against iron-poor blood with Geritol every day. Iron-poor blood is the #1 nutritional problem we women have.
But Geritol is iron-rich. Great protection against iron-poor blood. Iron is Geritol's middle name.
Take Geritol. I do. It's great protection.
You may remember last week President Reagan, during his weekly broadcast, asked for donors for children in need of liver transplants. Well, this week Mr. Reagan said there were about 5,000 phone calls from 47 states, and today there are 7 children recovering from liver transplants, but little Ashley Bailey, who prompted the president's appeal, is still waiting now for a donor. St. Louis police say an 11-year-old boy may have saved the life of a young girl who was beaten and raped in a city park fountain. While a 14-year-old girl was attacked Thursday night, several teenagers and at least 2 adults watched and did nothing. And the attack went on for about 40 minutes. The girl screams for help, ignored, but one boy, Sir Williams, when he realized what was happening, went for the police. They rescued the girl and caught her 2 attackers. And here's Williams.
Yeah, I thought, I said, well, I might get in trouble and I might get beat up, but it's worth the try, because she could have been badly hurt. She could have got killed. So then I just rode off on my bike and got the police, and they came up there and got the 2.
And death came to Raymond Massey. He was 86 years old and died at a California hospital. Massey was in 80 stage plays, and he made more than 70 movies. He played everything from cowboys to army officers to villains, but he was best known for his portrayal of Abraham Lincoln, both on stage and in films. And he was also Dr. Gillespie in the long-running television series Dr. Kildare. News continues in just a moment.
I was on the road with 3 more sales calls to make. And it sure was a bad time for my muffler to go out. My old muffler was from Midas. So I found a Midas shop in the next town and showed them my guarantee. I'm in kind of a hurry. They honored it with no hassle and got the job done fast. When you count on your car like I do, it's great to be able to count on Midas.
Trust the Midas touch.
What's the watchword for antacids?
Watch your salt.
Right. The Surgeon General's report says Americans get too much salt. So when you need an antacid, reach for Riopan Plus, the fast-acting antacid low in sodium. So low, it's considered sodium-free. Laboratory tests show Riopan Plus worked 4 times faster than the 2 leading liquids. Riopan Plus, fast-acting, low in sodium. So low, it's considered sodium-free. Riopan Plus.
Welcome to Timex Quartz. Incredible technology. Uncanny accuracy. Our lightweight runner's quartz is water resistant. Our dress digitals have no buttons. This sleek command bar controls all functions. Now, bring the value of Timex Quartz into your world.
A great lady of the theater died this morning, Lynn Fontaine. She and her late husband, Alfred Lunt, acted together in 27 stage productions, and they were known for demanding perfection in just about everything they did. A theater was named for them in New York. Lynn Fontaine died in her home in Genesee Depot, Wisconsin. She was 95 years old. President Reagan signed a big money bill this afternoon, $7 billion. He did so just in time to avoid any disruption in food stamps, a delay that would have held this whole thing up. The bill provided some money for other things, too, money to cover unstashed Social Security checks, aid to El Salvador, and $9,100 pay raises for U.S. senators retroactive to July 1st. And the National Governors Conference begins tomorrow in Portland, Maine, but governors who were there a day early split their activities along party lines. Republican governors visited Vice President Bush at his nearby summer home, and Democratic governors attended a forum on education. Pasadena is the World Chess Championship, and that is on Saturday. The semifinals of the World Chess Championships begin there. Playing will be a Soviet citizen and a man who defected from there. Frank Burkholzer will introduce us.
Viktor Korchnoi, Grandmaster of Chess, defector from the Soviet Union, preparing for what promises to be one of the most entertaining international chess matches in years.
And this is favorite Kasparov setup. And he won dozens of games, and I have to be prepared to it.
Kasparov is the name of his opponent, Garry Kasparov, 20 years old, Russian prodigy, growing up, threatening to knock off world champion Anatoly Karpov, on the left in this picture. Kasparov had a Jewish father, Armenian mother. Does not quite fit the Soviet mold for an ideal champion.
Kasparov is young, non-experienced, representative of, non-Russian population of the Soviet Union, representative of the intellectual class, while Karpov is typical Russian, 100% Russian, while he is a representative of the working class, while he is obedient to the Soviet authorities. The officials, the authorities, they want to see Karpov champion forever.
Karpov won the title by beating Korchnoi in 1974, held it by beating Korchnoi in 1977 and in 1981. If Korchnoi can beat Kasparov, he'll probably be the challenger again in 1984. He's running, playing table tennis to build up stamina. Kasparov is 32 years younger. Chess Life predicts a Kasparov-Korchnoi slugfest, a thriller in Pasadena, with Korchnoi the underdog, unless the Russians use their dislike of Pasadena as a pretext to forfeit Kasparov's match. Frank Burkholzer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Whatever happens to a company town when the company just gives up or moves out? Well, it used to mean economic ruin for the town's people. Now, as Bob Abernathy reports, it more and more often results in employee ownership.
Weirton, West Virginia, a steel town of 26,000 people totally dependent on one huge mill. But last year, the mill's owners decided to phase it out. Already, 1 of every 4 steel workers here had been laid off. The town would die unless the employees could buy the mill themselves.
We can do it. Our company will work to make it one of a kind.
The people of Weirton decided to do it. They raised $1.5 million to hire experts to arrange a buyout. If the employees agree, they would give up about 20% of their pay in return for stock in the company. That might save their jobs. It would also make Weirton Steel the largest employee-owned company in the country.
The day will come, in fact, it's practically here already, when the workers will own companies that actually hire the management rather than the management hire the workers.
Senator Russell Long has pushed through Congress huge new tax breaks for companies that buy stock for their employees. He wants to broaden capitalism.
This system is not going to survive. It won't meet the test of time if those who own America or own any capitalist country are a small minority.
People Express and about 5,000 other companies now have some kind of employee stock ownership plan, and the recession accelerated the trend. In the Chrysler bailout, stock for the workers was a condition for wage concessions. Altogether, in the last dozen years, employees have bought out 60 companies, saving 50,000 jobs. Now at Conrail, the unions that run that railroad want to become its owners. But other union leaders fear employee ownership can hurt workers.
Too often it's a bailout for a sick company. We see it too often as a reserved seat on the first-class section of the Titanic for the workers.
3 years ago, the Rath Packing Company in Waterloo, Iowa, was about to sink, but employees gave up $100 a week in pay for 60% of the stock, and now the former president of the union, Lyle Taylor, is president of the company. Rath is still not profitable, but it remains in business.
How are you? I'm Lyle Taylor.
We would not be here today if it wasn't for employee ownership.
Well, you care more. You care more about the product. You care more about everything.
Some employees care enough to meet on their own time to try to improve quality.
The maple bacon trays have no distinguishing marks on them.
Taylor thinks shared ownership works only with shared decision-making.
You've got to be ready to give up that control as an employer. And if you don't do that, then you're kidding yourself and you're kidding the workers, and you'll have employees striking themselves.
Back in Weirton, some steel workers think they are being kidded. They want no part of a 20% wage cut.
A lot of good union people have given their lives, have died to get the worker up to where the standard of living that he enjoys today. Why should we hand all that back on a silver platter?
But Weirton is a town of strong family ties, and most people don't want to move away to look for new jobs.
We're very close in Weirton.
Bob Conley and his 2 sons all work for the mill.
Well, I'm ready to take the concessions. I know it's going to be a little harder, but I can handle it.
Life isn't fair. What you have to do whenever you're faced with decisions like this is make the best out of it.
We're going to be workers in the daytime and stockholders at night.
So cut the cake and have a good time, all right?
With the buyout in sight, some people in Weirton are already celebrating. The next question is whether their new company can succeed. If it does, it could send an important message to every other company facing tough competition that costs can be cut when stock is shared. Bob Abernethy, NBC News, Weirton, West Virginia.
When governments owe each other money, cash rarely changes hands. The money's merely transferred on paper. At the end of the year, the books are balanced, and guess who comes up short? Last year, it was the United States by over $41 billion. According to the New York Times, no one knows where the money went. It could have ended up in a Swiss bank account or even missing airline tickets. In addition to the $41 billion, there's another $59 billion that other countries are out. Altogether, $100 billion is missing on paper. Most of the money is missing in a category called, quote, other services, but investigators have been unable to find out what that is either. And on the subject of money, Joan Machado of Miami got her monthly phone bill. I guess that's not such a big story, except when you want to consider that it was 381 pages long and amounted to $18,000. Well, it seems somebody wrote her name and telephone credit card number on the walls of a couple of phone booths. That is not funny, she said. I had to wade through all of this to find out the ones that are really mine. Quote, we'll trace the others and collect, says a phone company spokesman. We are pretty good at it after all. We've been around a long time. We'll be around for more news after this.
Get a feel for cotton. It's what you like in denim jeans because it fits your life and always feels just right and makes you feel free and comfortable. Once you get a feel for cotton, you won't feel like anything else. Look for the cotton seal on Wrangler no-fault jeans. They're all cotton denim for durability and comfort.
No two investments are alike. Some require discipline. Others require courage. Each has its place in molding your financial picture. As respected advisors to the serious investor, we at Shearson American Express recommend each investment be evaluated in terms of who you are, rather than just dollars and cents. Shearson American Express and the serious investor. Minds over money.
Delicious. Look what happens when Swift wraps the finest white meat chicken around the most delectable fillings in the world. You get the Swift International Entree, an incredibly delicious Swift International Entree dinner. Swift wraps fine white meat chicken around the world's most delicious fillings. So all you need is an oven, 30 minutes, and a taste for finer things. The Swift International Entree. Something this good shouldn't be so easy.
Finally, today marks the beginning of what is known in racing circles as the season, horses and social. Photographing of the horses was always permitted, but this year, for the very first time, we were invited for a rare glimpse of the social scene as well. The 116th racing season dawns at Saratoga Springs.
Come on. Hang in there, right there.
They come to watch the races and to watch the very, very rich, who also come. They come to race their horses and to be seen. Cornelius Vanderbilt Whitney and his wife Mary Lou. 130 years ago, his great-great-grandfather came to Saratoga. The Vanderbilt Whitneys could be called Saratoga's first family, and they put on a great show. Lunch at the very private Trackside Club.
Are you going to be our waiter today? Oh, good.
How's everybody doing today?
We're fine. What would you like to drink?
Oh, I think I'll have a tab right now.
The private box at the race.
There they go. There they're off. Let me get back to the box. Where for that gray horse? 40 to 1. 50 to 1 now. Like Mary Ann.
That's my precinct.
You won. Oh, my God. Liz bred that horse, Sonny. That was her horse.
And the parties, which take months of planning.
I have a marvelous life, but I work very hard. You don't run 7 houses, and you don't do as many charity parties and take care of as many social events. I probably work harder than most people. I'm up at 7:30 in the morning, and sometimes I'm working until 1 in the morning. Oh, that's beautiful. You know Mrs. Bell, Miss Marty, Mrs. Bell. Hi, darling.
How are you?
But the townsfolk aren't just smiling at the pretty gowns here. The money they earn during August working these parties and at the track will pay next winter's heating bills. And then, of course, this season will begin all over again at Saratoga. And this note, back in the 18th century, a man named Gideon Putnam used the season to pour mineral water from the springs into the visitors. This season, more than 20,000 visitors will pour some $40 million into the area, not for health, for horses. That's our report. Lloyd Dobbins hosts Monitor tonight at 10, 9 Central and Mountain Time. Chris Wallace will be here for Nightly News tomorrow. I'm Jessica Savitch from New York. Thank you, and good night from all of us at NBC News.
I'd like to keep that great GM feeling, Mr. Goodwrench, but how am I supposed to know when to do what?
Just watch your 75s.
75s?
Here, to help you keep that great GM feeling, your GM maintenance schedule calls for a checkup every 7,500 miles.
Looks complicated, Mr. Goodwrench.
It isn't. All you have to do is watch the top of the charts and your odometer. We take care of the rest.
Keep that great GM feeling.
Mr. Goodwrench makes it easy.
With genuine GM parts.
Darn, my sink trap's clogged.
Do you know what's clogging it?
Who knows what's down there? Grease, food, hair.
Better use Crystal Drano, the all-purpose drain opener.
Isn't liquid plumber's all-purpose?
No, it may not work on tough grease clogs.
Will Drano?
Yes, Drano works on grease and food and hair.
Wow! I never know what the clog is, so I'll use all-purpose Drano.
Drano, the all-purpose drain opener.
This plane flies donated kidneys to waiting patients. It uses a special aviation oil because a kidney on life support has only hours to get to its recipient. In freezing conditions, that all-weather oil, developed by Phillips Petroleum, saves time that would be lost preheating cold engines. And that could save the patient years on dialysis.
Kidney looks very good.
Fine products for you and your car from Phillips Petroleum, the performance company.
Linda Evans' secret for inner beauty?
That's personal.
Joan Collins talks about love and divorce.
That's confidential.
That's personal and confidential. Daytime TV's explosive new hour everyone will be talking about. Premieres Monday. Who's the passion in Robert Duvall's love life?
That's personal and confidential.
Coming up on the scene at 6.